Odd. On the edge of the town, where the last of the houses gave way to open country, a child stood quietly at the edge of a field and watched a man at work. Oh, it was late in the afternoon, and the light had turned to that soft and slanting gold that comes in the last hours before evening. And the man was sitting on a low bench in the shade of a tree, bent over a piece of wood, working it with his hands. He had a small blade, and he was shaping the wood with slow, patient strokes. And with each stroke, a thin curl of shaving fell away and drifted down to join the others scattered at his feet. Odd, the child did not know who he was. The child only knew that there was something about the way he worked, or something unhurried and content that made it hard to look away. Hello there, friend, and welcome. However your day has gone, however much it has asked of you, you can begin now to set the whole of it down. You do not have to do anything here but rest. You can let your shoulders soften, let your breathing slow, and let yourself be carried, for a little while, into a gentler scene, into the warm gold of a Galilean afternoon, and the quiet company of a man at work, and the children who would come to find him there. For tonight, after some heavier nights, we are going to tell a softer story, a story full of sawdust and sunlight and the laughter of children, and yet a story that holds, at its center, one of the most surprising and beautiful truths that has ever been spoken. This is one more evening on the long journey we are walking together, you and I, through the oldest and truest stories ever told. We have spent some nights now in the towns along a small grey lake in Galilee, getting to know the people whose lives were being touched and turned by a man from Nazareth. We sat with a woman who had been lost in darkness and was found and called by name. We watched a holy day of rest fall across a whole town and reveal the hearts of those it touched. And tonight we stay in that same world, but we slow down and we soften, because the man at the center of all these stories is about to show us something about himself, and about the kingdom he came to bring, that he chose to reveal first, not to the powerful or the learned, but to the smallest and most overlooked people of all. If these gentle journeys are a comfort to you at the end of your day, you are welcome to stay close and follow along. And if you feel like it, you might leave a soft tap on the like button before you drift off, or, since I am told it rests easier when someone remembers it. Now, let us go back to that field at the edge of town, and to the child watching the man at work. For there is something worth noticing right at the start, something easy to miss but full of meaning. The great story we have been telling is, in the end, the story of the one whom heaven had promised across all the long ages, the deliverer the prophets foretold, the hope of a whole waiting people. And when at last he came and began to move quietly through the towns of Galilee, you might have expected him to make his first impression on the important people, the rulers and the teachers and the learned men who spent their lives studying the ancient promises. You might have expected him to seek out the ones who would understand, the ones with influence, or the ones whose recognition would matter. But that is not where this story takes us tonight. Tonight it takes us to a field at the edge of a town, and to a man working wood in the afternoon light, and to the children who, of all people, were the first to simply come and sit with him and to discover, in their own small and trusting way, who he really was. It is one of the quiet surprises that runs all through this story, and it is worth holding on to from the very beginning. The wise and the powerful, for all their learning, so often missed what was right in front of them. Awesome. They were looking for the deliverer in their scrolls, and their arguments, and their grand expectations, and they could not see him when he stood among them, because he did not come in the way. Their cleverness had decided he must. What? But the children were not looking for anything. They had no theories to defend, no reputation to protect, no learned ideas about how the Messiah was supposed to appear. They simply saw a kind man working in a field, and they were curious, and they came near. And in their simple coming, with no agenda but their own openness, they would find themselves closer to the heart of the whole matter than all the learned men in all the synagogues of Galilee. Dude, there is wisdom in that, a deep and gentle wisdom, and we will be turning it over all through this evening. Dude, so let us begin where the children began, with simple curiosity, watching a man at his work in the golden afternoon. Let us not rush to grand conclusions or solemn lessons, but simply draw near, the way a child draws near, open and unhurried, and see what we find. For the man working the wood in that field was no ordinary carpenter, though he looked like one, or worked like one, and was content to be taken for one. And the truth of who he was would be revealed, not in a temple or a palace, but here, the warm and ordinary light of a Galilean evening, to a handful of children who had nothing to offer him but their trust. That, as it turns out, was exactly enough. There is a reason to begin so gently tonight, and it is worth saying plainly. We have walked through some heavier scenes on this journey, scenes of darkness and burden, or of people at the very end of themselves. And that is part of the truth of things, and we do not look away from it. But the same story that holds the darkness also holds this, the laughter of children in a field, the warmth of an afternoon, the quiet joy of being welcomed. A long journey needs its resting places, its gentler stretches where the heart can catch its breath. This is one of them, so let tonight be a kind of rest within the larger story, a soft and sunlit clearing along the road, where nothing is heavy and no one is in any danger, and the only thing asked of you is to sit in the warm light and watch a kind man at his work. Let your own weariness ease. And there is a fittingness in it, too, that the gentlest scene should carry one of the deepest truths. For the great matters of the kingdom were not always revealed in thunder and fire. Or often they came quietly, in ordinary places, to ordinary people, in ways the proud and the busy walked right past. A field at the edge of a town, a workingman in the afternoon light, a handful of curious children. These are not the settings where the world expects to find the turning points of history. And yet, again and again, these are exactly the places where the most important things were happening all along, while the important people looked elsewhere. So let us learn to look where the children looked, at the small and the humble and the overlooked. For that is so often where the kingdom is quietly breaking in. Let us look more closely then at the man in the field, because there is more to him than first meets the eye. Yet the first thing to understand is how very ordinary he appeared. He was a carpenter. The old accounts tell us this plainly, almost in passing, that the man from Nazareth was a carpenter, a worker in wood, the son of a carpenter, raised in a small hill town to a humble and unremarkable trade. In the language of that place and time, the word for his work meant something like a builder, a craftsman who worked with his hands, shaping wood and sometimes stone into the things that ordinary life required. He would have known the smell of fresh-cut timber and the weight of a good tool. He would have known the patient labor of measuring and cutting and joining, the small satisfactions of a piece well made. His hands, you may be sure, were the hands of a workingman, calloused and strong, marked by years of honest labor. There is something worth pausing over in that simple fact, something the world has always found hard to believe. The one whom heaven had promised, the hope of the ages, the deliverer the prophets had foretold, spent the long years of his life before his public work doing the most ordinary thing imaginable. He worked. He made things. He swept the shavings from the floor at the end of the day and went home tired, the way any working man goes home tired. Most of his life, no crowds gathered, no miracles were spoken of, no prophets pointed and declared who he was. There was only a carpenter in a small town, doing good and patient work, living a quiet and humble life that no one thought to write down. The greatest life that was ever lived was, for most of its years, a hidden life of ordinary labor. And this tells us something tender and important about the one we are coming to know. Something that should be a comfort to anyone whose own life feels small and unremarkable. He did not despise ordinary work. He did not consider the humble years wasted. He chose, of all the ways he might have spent his time on earth, to spend most of it as a working man, with sawdust on his clothes and a tool in his hand. And there is a dignity granted to all honest labor in that choice. A quiet blessing laid upon every ordinary life. If you have ever felt that your own days are too plain to matter, that the small and unseen work you do is beneath notice, then take heart from the Carpenter of Nazareth, who spent the greatest life ever lived doing exactly that kind of work, and counted none of it beneath him. Picture him then, in that field at the edge of the town, doing what he had always done. A low bench in the shade, the piece of wood across his knees, the small blade moving in slow, or sure, strokes. Perhaps he was shaping a tool handle, or mending something, or simply working the wood for the pleasure and the discipline of it. Shavings curled away and fell, soft and pale, gathering at his feet and giving off that clean, sweet smell of fresh wood that anyone who has worked with their hands will know. There was no hurry in him. He worked the way a person works, who is fully present in what they are doing, who is not racing towards some other moment, but is simply, completely, here, in this one. And that quality of unhurried presence, that deep and peaceful attention, was itself a kind of teaching, though no words were spoken. It was the look of a soul entirely at rest in itself, entirely at home in its own life, with nothing to prove and nowhere it would rather be. Does wonder a child stop to watch? Children notice these things, even when they could not put them into words. They are drawn, the way all of us are drawn, to peace, to gentleness, to a person who is unhurried and kind. A world full of busy and anxious grown-ups, of adults rushing from task to task with furrowed brows. Here was a man who simply sat in the golden light and worked with patient hands and seemed entirely content. To a watching child, that contentment would have been like warmth on a cold day, something to move toward without quite knowing why. And so the child watched and drew a little nearer, and the man, sensing the small presence at the edge of the field, looked up from his work. And here is where the whole story turns, on the smallest of things, on the simple matter of how a busy man responds to the interruption of a curious child. For in that world, as in ours, children were easily dismissed. They were small and unimportant in the eyes of most grown-ups, to be hushed and shooed away. not to be taken seriously, certainly not to be welcomed into the company of adults as guests worthy of respect. Or a child watching a workingman might expect, at best, to be ignored, and at worst to be sent off with a sharp word, told to stop staring and go home, to leave the grown-up to his grown-up work. All that was simply how it was. Children knew their place, which was out from underfoot, beneath the notice of important and busy people. But the man from Nazareth did not send the child away. He looked up from his work, and across the golden field he met the eyes of the small watcher. And he did the thing that would change everything, the thing that no one expected, the thing that was so simple and so rare. He smiled at the child, warmly, with his whole face, the way you smile at someone you are genuinely glad to see. And in that smile was an invitation, an unmistakable welcome, a message that needed no words. "You are not a bother," the smile said. "You are not too small to matter. Come closer, you are welcome here." When the child, who had braced perhaps for a frown or a word of dismissal, felt instead the warmth of being truly seen and truly wanted, and took a step closer, and then another, into the company of the Carpenter of Nazareth. It was the beginning of something that none of them could have imagined. It helps to picture the world he worked in, because it grounds the scene in something real and solid. The carpenters of that land worked mostly with the timber they had to hand, the wood of the olive and the fig and the sycamore, hard and close-grained, good for tools and yokes and the beams and doors of houses. Craftsmen's tools were simple and well-worn, a saw, an adze, a bow drill, a mallet, a few blades kept carefully sharp, each one familiar in the hand from years of use. The work was physical and patient, full of measuring and cutting and fitting, of sanding a surface smooth and joining two pieces so well that they held without nails. It was the kind of work that taught a person patience, whether they wanted to learn it or not, that rewarded care and punished haste, that left a man with strong hands and a quiet mind, and the deep satisfaction of having made something good and useful with his own labor. And there is a quiet meaning in the fact that he of all people did this work, that the hands which would one day be laid in blessing on the heads of children, hands that would heal and lift and, in the end, be wounded for the world, were first, and for many years, the hands of a working man, rough, with the honest marks of his trade. He knew what it was to earn bread by labor. He knew the ache of a long day's work and the rest that follows it. Knew the feel of wood and tool and the slow patience of a thing made well. When he later spoke to working people, to fishermen and farmers and laborers, he spoke as one of them, because he was one of them, a craftsman who had spent his years in the same kind of honest toil. There is a nearness in that, a closeness to ordinary human life. That is itself a kind of comfort. The one at the center of this whole great story was no stranger to the ordinary working life that most people live. He had lived it himself, with sawdust on his hands, for most of the years he walked the earth. Next day, the child came back and did not come alone. Of course, this is how it always is with children. When one of them discovers something wonderful, a friendly animal, a hidden place, a kind grown-up who does not chase them away, the news travels among them faster than any messenger. Soon there is a whole small band of them, drawn by the report of a marvel. So it was here. The one who had been welcomed told the others, and curiosity did the rest. And before long there was a little cluster of children, making their way out to the field at the edge of town, half bold and half shy, to see for themselves the carpenter who smiled. And he welcomed them all. This is the thing that must have astonished them, that kept them coming back. The simple and revolutionary fact that he was glad to see them. He did not tolerate them, the way a busy adult tolerates children underfoot, with a thin patience that is really just waiting for them to leave. Or he welcomed them. He set down his work or made room for them around it. Or he spoke to them as though they were worth speaking to. He listened to them as though what they had to say was worth hearing. He treated each small visitor not as a nuisance to be managed, but as a guest to be honored, or with a respect so complete and so unexpected that the children could hardly have known what to make of it at first, and then could not get enough of it. To understand how remarkable this was, you have to understand how children were generally regarded in that world. They were loved by their families, of course, as children always have been. But in the wider life of society, in the world of important and serious matters, children simply did not count. They had no status, no voice, no standing. They were at the very bottom of the order of things. Notice, to be raised and fed and kept quiet until they were old enough to matter. No teacher of any importance would have wasted his time on them. No serious man would have welcomed a band of children into his company and treated their questions as worthy of real answers. Children were to be seen little and heard less. That was simply the way of things, so deeply assumed that no one even thought to question it. And here was a man turning all of that quietly upside down, not by arguing against it, but simply by acting as though it were not true. He behaved as though these children, these small and unimportant people whom the whole world overlooked, or in fact precious, worthy of his time and his attention and his respect. He got down to their level. He looked them in the eye. He answered their questions seriously and asked them questions in return, and laughed with them and worked alongside them. In doing so, he told them, more powerfully than any words could have, that they mattered, that they were seen, that they were welcome. And for children who were used to being overlooked by the grown-up world, that welcome must have been like sunlight, or something they basked in and returned to day after day. There is something here that reaches far beyond that field in Galilee, something that touches the deepest need of every human heart, or young or old, because the longing to be welcomed like that, to be received not as a bother but as a guest of honor, not tolerated but genuinely wanted, is one of the truest longings we carry, and one of the rarest things to find. So much of life can make us feel like an interruption, like we are taking up space we have no right to, like we must earn our welcome by being useful or impressive or quiet enough not to be a burden. And here was a man who offered the opposite, who welcomed the least important people in the whole society simply because they came, who made each small soul feel that there was nowhere he would rather have them than right there beside him. That welcome is at the very heart of who he was, and it is offered still to every soul that feels too small or too unimportant to be wanted. So the children came, day after day, in the golden hours of the late afternoon, after their lessons and their chores were done, out to the field where the carpenter worked. And the field became, without anyone quite deciding it should, a kind of gathering place, a small and happy outpost of welcome at the edge of the town. There would be the man at his patient work, and the children around him, some watching, some helping, some asking endless questions, some simply sitting in the warm contentment of being somewhere they were wanted. The sound of it would have drifted across the field on the evening air, the low, warm voice of the man, iron, and the bright laughter of the children, and the steady, small sounds of the work, all woven together into something that anyone passing might have stopped to wonder at. What was this gathering of children around a working man at the edge of town? What was it about him that drew them so? Gone. They could not have answered, those passers-by, and perhaps the children could not have fully answered either. They only knew that here was a place of welcome and a man of kindness, and that being near him made them feel, in some way they could not name, more themselves, more at peace, more glad to be alive. They did not know, not yet, who he really was. They did not know that the kindness they were basking in was the kindness of the one the whole world had been waiting for. That the welcome they had stumbled into was a small foretaste of a welcome that would one day be offered to all the world. They only knew that they were happy there, in the field, in the golden light, in the company of the man who was glad to see them. Odd. And for now that was enough. The deeper truth would come in time, gently, the way all the best truths come to children, not through argument, but through love. Odd. It is worth lingering on how unusual that welcome would have looked to anyone watching, because the strangeness of it is part of its beauty. What, in the ordinary run of things, a gathering of importance was a gathering of grown men. Children belonged at the edges of life, not at its center. A teacher gathered students who were old enough to learn the law, or a craftsman gathered apprentices old enough to be useful. No one of any standing surrounded himself by choice with a band of small children and treated their company as a delight. Yet, here was exactly that, a man of evident depth and goodness who seemed to prefer, of all the company he might have kept, the company of the little ones. Not gather them, because they could do anything for him. They had nothing to offer, no influence, no usefulness, no standing that could raise his own. He gathered them simply because he loved them, and because in their open and trusting hearts he saw something the grown-up world had largely lost. And the children, for their part, gave him the one thing that the important and the powerful so rarely gave anyone, which was their complete and unguarded trust. They did not come to him with suspicion, weighing whether he was worth their time, calculating what they might gain. They came openly, wholeheartedly, holding nothing back the way children do when they have decided someone is safe and good. They told him their small troubles and their small joys. They asked him their unfiltered questions. They leaned against him, climbed onto the bench beside him, or fell asleep, perhaps, in the warm afternoons, secure in his presence. That total trust, freely given, is one of the most precious things a human heart can offer. And it is offered most easily by children, before the world has taught them to guard themselves. The carpenter received it as the treasure it was, and gave back, in full measure, the love that such trust deserves. As the days went on, the children did not only watch. They began, little by little, to take part. For the carpenter did not simply let them sit at the edge of his work like an audience. He drew them in, he showed them what he was doing, and let them try it themselves, guiding their small hands, sharing with them the patient craft of working wood. Imagine the care of it. A strong and skilled man, bending low beside a small child, steadying the little fingers around a smooth piece of wood, showing how to feel the grain, how to move with it rather than against it, how to be patient when the work was slow. He was teaching them more than carpentry. He was teaching them, without ever saying so, or the value of patience, the dignity of doing a thing well, the quiet satisfaction of making something with your own hands. There is a gentle wisdom in teaching a child through shared work, and the carpenter understood it perfectly. A lesson spoken at a child is easily forgotten, but a lesson learned side by side, hand to hand, in the doing of a real thing, sinks down deep and stays. As the children worked the wood alongside him, they were learning patience by being patient, learning care by being careful, learning that good things take time and cannot be rushed. And they were learning, too, the simple joy of being trusted with something real, of being treated not as helpless little ones to be entertained, but as capable people who could be taught and trusted and included. To a child, there are few gifts greater than being trusted with real work by someone they admire. It tells them they are growing, that they are capable, that they belong in the world of meaningful things. As they worked, the children did what children always do. They asked questions, endless questions, the wonderful, unguarded, piercing questions that only children think to ask. The questions that grown-ups have learned to stop asking because they have decided they already know the answers, or because they are afraid of how the answers might unsettle them. Why do you live out here by yourself? They might have asked. Where is your house? Do you have a wife? Do you have children of your own? Why do you not have more things, a bigger place, finer clothes? The children asked these things with no guile and no judgment, simply out of honest curiosity, the way children do, and in his answers, the man revealed a way of living that was utterly different from the anxious, grasping way of the world around them. For the carpenter from Nazareth lived simply, freely, unburdened by the weight of possessions that pressed down on so many. He did not have a fine house, or a store of wealth, or the many things that people spend their lives chasing and worrying over. And he did not seem to mind in the least. He seemed, in fact, lighter for the lack of them, freer, more at peace than the wealthy and the busy, who had so much more and rested so much less. To the children's innocent questions about why he had so little, he answered in a way that turned the whole question on its head, helping them see that a life is not measured by what a person owns, that the truest riches are not the kind that can be stored in a house, or that a heart can be full to overflowing, while the hands hold almost nothing at all. This was a revelation, though it came in the gentlest of forms. The children had grown up, as we all do, in a world that measures people by what they have. That teaches us, almost from birth, to want more, to gather and to keep, to find our security in our possessions. And here was a man who simply did not play that game, who had stepped entirely outside of it, who was visibly, unmistakably happier for it. He showed them, just by the way he lived, that there was another way to be in the world, a way of openness and trust and freedom, a way of holding things lightly and finding your peace, not in what you own, but in something deeper and more lasting. It was a lesson the wisest philosophers have struggled to teach, and he taught it to children, without a single lecture, simply by living it in front of them, in the golden light of those afternoons. There is something in this for all of us, of course, something worth carrying into the quiet of your own night. So much of our weariness, so much of our anxiety comes from the endless striving to have more, to keep what we have, to measure ourselves against what others own and find ourselves wanting. We are taught to believe that our security and our worth lie in our possessions, and so we spend our lives chasing and guarding them, but we are rarely at rest. And here is a man who lived as though none of that were true, who held his few things lightly and his peace tightly, and who was free in a way that all the wealthy and worried people around him were not. He invites us still to loosen our grip, to hold the things of this world more lightly, to find our worth and our rest, not in what we have, but in who we are and whose we are. There is a deep freedom waiting on the other side of that loosening, the same freedom the children saw in the Carpenter of Nazareth. So, the lessons of those golden afternoons went on, woven into the shared work and the easy talk and the laughter. Lessons in patience and care, lessons in holding the world lightly, lessons in a kind of freedom the children had never seen in the anxious grown-ups of their town. But there was one more thing the carpenter taught them, perhaps the most important thing of all. Something that lay at the very center of who he was and what he had come to do. He taught them how to pray, not the long and complicated prayers they may have heard the important men recite, full of fine words and public display, but something far simpler and far truer and far more wonderful. He taught them how to speak to God as to a loving Father. And it is to that gentle teaching that we turn now, as the afternoon light deepens toward gold. It is worth dwelling, too, on the particular genius of teaching through the small and ordinary, because it reveals something about how this man understood the world. He did not gather the children to lecture them, to fill their heads with doctrines they were too young to grasp. He simply lived alongside them and let the truth show itself in the living. The patience of good work, the contentment of a simple life, the way a person can be unhurried and at peace in a world that is always rushing. These were not lessons to be memorized, but ways of being to be absorbed, caught more than taught, the way children catch the manner and spirit of those they love. And there is a deep wisdom in that, for the truest things we learn are rarely the ones we are told. They are the ones we see lived out in front of us by someone we trust, until, almost without noticing, they become part of who we are. And the questions the children asked, for all their innocence, reached places that grown-up questions often could not, because the children were not afraid to ask the simple things that adults have learned to leave alone. Or a grown-up might never ask a man why he lived as he did, might think it rude, might assume he already understood. But a child simply asks, and in the asking opens a door. Why do you live this way? What makes you happy? Are you ever lonely? Where is your true home? These are not small questions at all, though they come from small people. They are among the largest questions there are, the questions a whole life is spent answering. And the carpenter answered them, not with evasions, but with the same honesty the children had offered him, giving them in words they could hold, glimpses of a way of living rooted not in having but in trusting, not in grasping, but in resting in the love of a Father who provides. The children received these answers the way they received everything from him, simply, trustingly, letting them sink down deep to do their quiet work over a lifetime. There came a moment in one of those golden afternoons when the talk among the children turned, as it sometimes did, to God. Perhaps one of them asked a question about prayer, having watched the man pray quietly in the early mornings or the evenings. Perhaps they wondered aloud whether God could really hear them, small as they were, or whether prayer was something only for the important men, or the ones who stood in the synagogues and recited their long and careful words. And in answer, the carpenter taught them something that would have surprised them deeply, something that overturned what they had likely come to believe about God and about themselves. For the children, like everyone in their world, would have grown up watching the religious leaders pray, and what they saw would have left a particular impression. They would have seen men who made a great show of their devotion, who prayed long and elaborate prayers in public places, who used many fine words, and stood where they could be seen and admired. They would have absorbed, without anyone teaching it directly, the idea that prayer was a complicated and formal thing, a performance for experts, something you had to do just right, with the correct words in the correct order, or it would not count. And they would have concluded, naturally enough, that God was distant and demanding, a great and severe presence far above them, who could only be approached through the proper rituals by the proper people, and certainly not by children. The carpenter gently swept all of that away. He taught them that they did not need fine words or long prayers or any special ritual to speak to God. He taught them that God was not a distant and severe master to be approached with fear and formality, but a loving Father who delighted to hear from his children, who was near, who was kind, or who wanted to be spoken to simply and honestly, the way a child speaks to a father who loves them. He taught them that they could come to God just as they were, small and ordinary as they felt, and pour out their hearts in their own plain words and be heard and be loved. No, there was no need to impress him, no need to perform, no need to be anyone other than exactly who they were. They had only to come, trusting the way a child climbs into a loving parent's lap, and speak from the heart. Imagine what that teaching must have meant to those children. To be told that the great God of heaven, the one the important men approached with such ceremony and care, was, in fact, a father who loved them and wanted to hear their simple prayers, would have been almost too wonderful to believe. It meant that they were not too small to matter to God. It meant that they did not have to grow up first, or learn the proper words, or become important, before they could be heard. It meant that the door to God, which they had perhaps imagined, was guarded and high and far above them, was in fact wide open to them right now, exactly as they were, small and unimportant and beloved. The carpenter was giving them not just a lesson about prayer, but a whole new picture of God and of their own place in his heart. And here we touch something that lies very near the center of everything this man came to teach, and very near the center of the comfort he offers to weary souls in every age, including your own. For the picture of God he gave those children, a loving Father, near and kind, who delights to hear our simple prayers, is the truest picture there is, and it is offered to all of us, not just to children. So many of us carry, without quite realizing it, that other picture, the picture of a distant and demanding God who must be approached just so, who is more likely to be disappointed in us than delighted with us, before whom we must perform and prove ourselves. And the carpenter quietly sets that picture aside and offers another in its place. You do not have to perform, he says. You do not have to get the words right. You do not have to be impressive or important or anything other than what you are. You have only to come, like a child, trusting, and speak from your heart to a Father who loves you. That invitation is for you tonight, as much as it was for the children in the field. He taught them, too, of the things that mattered most to that loving Father, and they were not the things the world prized. He taught them of love, of how the whole of a good life could be gathered up into loving God and loving the people around them. He taught them of forgiveness, of letting go of the wrongs done to them, of not carrying grudges in their small hearts, of the freedom and the peace that come from forgiving as they hoped to be forgiven. These were not heavy lectures but simple truths, spoken in words a child could hold, woven into the easy companionship of those afternoons. And the children took them in the way. Children take in the things they learn from someone they love and trust, not as rules imposed from outside, but as treasures received, as a way of seeing the world that would stay with them long after the golden afternoons had ended. There was a beautiful simplicity to it all, and the simplicity was not a lack of depth, but the very heart of the depth. For what the carpenter was teaching these children was, in truth, the deepest wisdom there is, or the wisdom that the learned men, with all their scrolls and arguments, so often missed. He was teaching them to trust that they were loved, to trust that God was good, to trust that they could come to Him just as they were and be received. And that trust, that simple, childlike trust, was worth more than all the learning in all the libraries of the world, because it was the one thing that actually opened the door to God. The wise and the clever, for all their knowledge, often could not manage it, because their cleverness got in the way, because they wanted to understand and master and control, rather than simply to trust. But the children could trust easily, naturally, the way children do. And in that simple trust, they were closer to the kingdom of God than all the learned men of Galilee. Which brings us to the heart of our story, and to the moment when the carpenter would say so out loud, words that have echoed down all the centuries since. It is worth seeing how gently he corrected the picture of God the children had absorbed, because he did it not by tearing down, but by opening a door. He did not tell them that the careful, formal prayers were wicked, or mock the men who prayed them. See simply them something better and truer, and let the truer thing draw them. He let them see, perhaps in the way he himself prayed in the quiet hours, that talking to God could be as natural as talking to someone who loves you, that it could happen anywhere, in the field, at the workbench, under the stars, with no special words at all. And in seeing it, the children learned it, the way they learned everything from him, by watching a real thing lived out in front of them until it became something they could imagine doing themselves. Consider what a gift it is to give a child early a true picture of God. Much of what shapes a life is shaped young, in the deep places where our first impressions of the world and of God take root. A child taught to fear God as a harsh and distant judge may carry that fear for a lifetime, may spend years trying to earn a love that was freely offered all along. But a child taught that God is a loving Father, near and kind, and glad to hear them, carries something else entirely, a quiet confidence, a deep security, a sense of being held that nothing in life can fully take away. The carpenter was planting that second thing in the children of the field, giving them, their tender years, the truest and most freeing picture of God there is. It was a gift that would outlast the golden afternoons, a root of trust set down deep, or to hold them steady through whatever the years might bring. There came a day, the old accounts tell us, when this gentle truth was spoken out loud, plainly for everyone to hear, in a scene so tender that it has stayed in the hearts of those who love this story ever since. Or by now the man from Nazareth had begun his larger work, moving among the towns, gathering followers, or teaching the crowds. And wherever he went, people brought to him the things they most longed to have touched by his goodness: the sick, the suffering, those they loved. Oh, and on this day, the accounts tell us, people began bringing their children to him, that he might lay his hands on them and bless them. Mothers and fathers, carrying their little ones, pressing through the crowd, hoping that this good man, this teacher everyone was talking about, might place his hands on their small children and speak a blessing over them. Here something happened that reveals how deeply ingrained the world's way of thinking was, even among those closest to him. For his followers, his own disciples, the ones who walked with him and learned from him, saw the children being brought and tried to send them away. They rebuked the people. "Not here," they said, in effect, "not now. The teacher is busy with important things, or with the crowds, with the serious work of the kingdom. Do not trouble him with children." It was not cruelty, exactly. It was simply the assumption of their whole world, the deep and unquestioned belief that children were not important enough to warrant the time of a great teacher, that they should be kept out of the way of the real and serious business of grown-up matters. The disciples were only doing what everyone did. They were protecting their teacher from what they took to be a trivial interruption. But the carpenter from Nazareth saw what his followers were doing, and the accounts tell us something striking about his reaction. He was indignant, he was displeased, moved to a rare flash of strong feeling at the sight of his own disciples turning the children away. Of all the things that might have stirred him, it was this, the pushing aside of the little ones, that drew out his displeasure. And he spoke words that must have stopped the disciples in their tracks, words that turned their whole understanding upside down. "Let the children come to me," he said. "Do not hinder them, do not stop them, do not send them away." And then he said the thing that has echoed down all the centuries since, the thing that is the very heart of our story tonight. "For to such as these," he said, "belongs the kingdom of God." Let those words settle over you for a moment, because they are among the most surprising he ever spoke. The kingdom of God, the great and glorious reality that the learned men studied and the prophets had foretold, and the whole nation longed for, belongs, he said, to such as these. To children, to the small, the overlooked, the ones the world counted as unimportant. Not to the powerful, not to the learned, not to the impressive, or the accomplished, or the religiously expert. To the little ones, and to those who are like them. In a single sentence, he overturned the whole order of the world, lifting the lowest to the highest place, declaring that the kingdom belongs first, not to the great but to the small, not to the proud but to the humble, not to those who have everything figured out, but to those who simply come, trusting like a child. Then he went further still, in case anyone had missed his meaning. "Most truly I tell you," he said, "whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a child will never enter it." There it was, as plain as could be, the way into the kingdom is not the way the world assumes. It is not earned by greatness, or learning, or achievement, or religious performance. It is received, like a gift, the way a child receives a gift, with open hands and an open heart and simple trust. The very thing the wise and the powerful found so hard. This childlike trust, this humble willingness to receive rather than to earn, was the one thing absolutely necessary. And the children, who had it so naturally, were closer to the kingdom than all the learned men who had spent their lives studying and still could not manage to simply trust. And, having spoken these words, he did the most beautiful thing of all. He did not merely make a point about children and then move on to weightier matters. He took the children into his arms. The accounts tell us this with a tenderness that still shines across 2,000 years. He took them up in his arms, and he laid his hands on them, and he blessed them. Picture it, the one whom heaven had promised, the hope of the ages, gathering the little ones into his arms, holding them close, placing his strong carpenter's hands gently on their small heads, and speaking words of blessing over each one. Not in a hurry, not as a duty to be gotten through, but with all the warmth and delight of someone doing exactly what he most wanted to do. The children who had been pushed aside were drawn into the very arms of God, and held, are blessed and made to know, beyond all doubt, that they were precious, that they were welcome, all that they belonged. This is the heart of our story, and it is one of the most healing pictures in all of Scripture. It's a picture worth carrying with you into sleep tonight. The kingdom of God, it turns out, has its arms open widest to the smallest. The one at the center of everything is not too busy or too important for the little ones. Takes them up and holds them close and blesses them, and is displeased with anyone who would push them away. And the way into his kingdom is not the steep and narrow way of achievement that the world imagines, but the open and welcoming way of simple trust, the way a child comes, with empty hands and an open heart, ready to be loved. If you have ever felt too small, too unimportant, too overlooked to matter to God, then hear these words spoken over you tonight. Let the children come, do not hinder them, for to such as these belongs the kingdom. There is a place in those arms for you. It is worth noticing, too, that he did not only speak about the children, but acted toward them, and that the action was as much the message as the words. He could have made his point and left it there. A fine saying about the humble and the kingdom. The kind of thing a teacher says, and the crowd nods at and forgets. But he did not leave it as words. He reached out and gathered the little ones into his arms. He made the truth physical, visible, unmistakable. The children did not only hear that they belonged to the kingdom. They felt it in the strong and gentle arms that held them, in the hands laid on their heads, the closeness and the warmth of being drawn in. That is so often how the deepest truths are given to us, not as ideas to be understood, but as love to be felt, as a welcome we experience in our very bodies before we could ever explain it in words. And think of how the watching grown-ups must have felt. The disciples who had just been turning the children away. They had assumed they were doing right, protecting their teacher's time, keeping the trivial from interrupting the important. And now they watched him do the very opposite of what they expected, watched him stop everything, or gather the little ones, and declare that here, in these overlooked children, was the very picture of who belongs to the kingdom. Must have unsettled them deeply, in the way that truth unsettles us when it overturns what we were sure we knew. They were learning, as we all must learn, that the values of the kingdom are not the values of the world, or that the things the world counts as great are often small in heaven, and the things the world overlooks are often precious beyond measure. It was a lesson they would spend the rest of their lives learning, and so perhaps will we. Let us stay a while with that strange and beautiful command that whoever does not receive the kingdom like a child will never enter it, because it asks something of every one of us, and it is worth understanding gently what it asks. For at first hearing, it can sound puzzling, even troubling. We are grown people, after all. We cannot become children again, and we would not want to. With all that children lack, their helplessness, their ignorance of the world. So what could it mean, this call to receive the kingdom like a child? What is it about a child that the carpenter held up as the very key to the kingdom of God? It is not childishness he praised, not the foolishness or the tantrums or the lack of understanding. It is something deeper, something at the heart of what a child is, before the world has taught it to be otherwise. A child knows that it cannot provide for itself, and so it simply trusts. A child does not earn its place in the family, does not perform to deserve its parents' love, not lie awake, calculating whether it has done enough to be worthy of the next meal. A child simply receives. It receives food and shelter and love as gifts, freely given, with open hands and an untroubled heart, because it knows, without having to think about it, that it is cared for. A child trusts that it is loved and rests in that love, and asks for what it needs without shame, and receives what is given without having to earn it. That is the childlikeness the carpenter praised, not weakness, but trust, not foolishness, but the wisdom to know that we are not the ones holding everything together, and to rest in the care of one who is. And here is why this is so hard for grown-ups, and why the wise and the powerful so often missed the kingdom that the children walked right into. Because as we grow, we learn to rely on ourselves. We learn to earn, to achieve, to prove our worth, to provide for our own needs, and to trust no one to do it for us. We build up our accomplishments and our possessions and our cleverness, and we come to find our security in them, what we have done and what we know and what we own. And all of that, good as much of it is, makes it terribly hard to do the one thing the kingdom requires, which is simply to receive it as a gift we have not earned and cannot earn. The proud cannot do it, because it means admitting they need to be carried. The self-reliant cannot do it, because it means letting go of the controls. The learned cannot do it, because it means trusting rather than mastering. The very strengths that the world prizes become the barriers to the kingdom, while the child's simple trust, which the world counts as nothing, turns out to be the golden key. So the call to become like a child is, in truth, a call to lay down a heavy burden, the burden of having to earn our own worth, of having to hold our whole world together by our own strength, of having to prove that we deserve to be loved. It is a call to stop striving and simply trust, to come to God not as one who has earned a place, but as a beloved child who is welcomed home for nothing more than coming. To receive love rather than to achieve it. And if you think about it, that is not a harder way, but an infinitely easier one. Not a heavier load, but the laying down of every load. The carpenter was not asking the grown-ups to take on some difficult new task. He was inviting them to put down the impossible task they had been carrying all their lives, the task of being their own savior, and to rest at last in being loved. There is deep comfort in this for anyone who is tired tonight, and most of us are tired in one way or another. Because so much of our weariness comes from exactly the thing the carpenter invites us to lay down. The endless effort to earn our place, to prove our worth, to be good enough, to hold it all together by ourselves. We carry that burden everywhere, often without even noticing it, the constant low effort of justifying our own existence, making ourselves worthy of love and belonging. Into all that striving comes this gentle invitation, spoken first to children in a field in Galilee and offered now to you. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to hold it all together. You can come like a child, with open and empty hands, and simply receive the love that is already yours, the welcome that was always waiting, the place in the family that was never in question. You can lay the whole heavy burden down, and there is something else here, something tender and easy to miss, that speaks to the deep dignity of every small and overlooked life. For in lifting up the children, in declaring that the kingdom belongs to such as these, the carpenter was saying something about all the small and overlooked people of the world, all those whom the proud and the powerful pass by without a second glance. He was saying that the values of the kingdom are upside down from the values of the world, that the last shall be first, that the humble shall be lifted up, that the ones the world counts as nothing are precious beyond measure in the eyes of God. Whoever you are, however small or overlooked or unimportant you have been made to feel, you are not small in the eyes of the one who gathered the children into his arms. You are precious, you are wanted. There is a place for you, near to his heart, in a kingdom that belongs first to the little ones. All you have to do to enter it is to come, like a child, trusting, with open hands. There is a freedom hidden in this that is worth naming clearly, because it runs against almost everything the world tells us. The world says that worth must be earned, that love must be deserved, that we are only as valuable as what we produce and achieve and accumulate. And under that message, quietly, a great many people are exhausted, always running, never quite enough, never able to rest, because the moment they stop, the fear creeps in that they have not done enough to justify their place. The carpenter's words cut clean through all of it. The kingdom belongs to children, he said, to those who cannot earn it and do not try to, who simply receive it as a gift. That means the whole exhausting economy of earning is overturned at a stroke. You were never going to be able to earn your way in. No one is, and you do not have to. The door is opened from the other side, by love, and all you bring is your willingness to be carried through it. For the grown-up heart, learning this can feel almost like learning to fall, like the moment a swimmer first stops fighting the water and discovers it will hold them up. There is fear in it, the fear of letting go of the controls we have gripped so long, the fear that if we stop striving we will sink off. But the carpenter's invitation is exactly the invitation to stop fighting the water, to let go and discover that we are held, that we were always held, that the love we were straining to earn was reaching for us the whole time. The children in the field knew nothing of striving. They simply trusted and were gathered in, and the same arms that gathered them are open to every weary grown-up who is finally ready to stop earning and simply be loved. It is the easiest thing in the world, and the hardest, and it is the only way in. And so we come to the quiet end of tonight's story, a softer story than some we have told. And let us gather its warmth around us now, as the day draws to its close. We have spent this evening in the golden light of Galilean afternoons, in the company of a carpenter who welcomed the children that the world overlooked, who shared his patient work with them, who showed them a life held lightly and free, who taught them to speak to God as to a loving Father, and who took the little ones into his arms and blessed them and declared that to such as these belongs the kingdom of God. It has been a gentle story, full of sawdust and sunlight and laughter, and yet at its heart lies one of the most important truths the world has ever been given, that the way to God is not the steep climb of the proud, but the open-handed trust of a child. If there is anything to carry out of this hour and down into sleep, let it be the gentleness of that truth. Rest it offers your tired heart. Most of us spend our days like the grown-ups in the story, striving and earning and proving, carrying the heavy burden of having to be enough, of having to hold our whole world together by ourselves. And the carpenter's invitation, spoken first to children in a field and offered now to you, is to lay that burden down. You do not have to earn your welcome. You do not have to be impressive or important or strong enough or good enough. You can come like a child with empty and open hands and simply receive the love that is already yours. The kingdom is not a prize for the deserving, it is a gift for the trusting. And the arms that gathered the children are open, still to you. So let yourself be one of those children tonight, just for these quiet hours. Let yourself stop striving, stop proving, stop carrying what was never yours to carry alone. Let yourself simply be loved, not for anything you have done, but for who you are, a beloved child of a Father who delights in you. Whatever has made you feel too small, or too unimportant, or too overlooked to matter, set it down tonight. And remember the carpenter who was indignant at anyone who would push the little ones away, who took them up in his arms, who declared them precious and welcome, and first in the kingdom of God. That welcome is for you, that blessing is for you, there is a place in those arms for you, exactly as you are. And remember, as you drift towards sleep, that this gentle afternoon is only one scene in a long and unfolding story, and that the story goes on. The carpenter would not stay forever in his quiet field at the edge of the town. The day was coming very soon when he would set down the tools of his trade and step fully into the great work he had come to do, moving out among the towns and the crowds, gathering those he would call to follow him, beginning the journey that would lead, in time, all the way to a hill outside Jerusalem and a morning that would change the world. There are so many nights still ahead of us on this road, so many more of his words and works to wonder at, or so many more lives he would touch and turn. We have only begun to see who he is, but that is all still to come, in the nights ahead, as we keep walking this long and beautiful road together. So let your shoulders come down now, and let your breathing grow slow and deep, and let the day you carried into this hour begin to loosen and fall away. You do not have to finish anything tonight. You do not have to be strong or wise or impressive. You can be small tonight and trusting and held, like a child gathered up into safe and loving arms at the end of a long day. Striving can stop now. The proving can stop now. You can simply rest in the care of the one who counts the little ones as precious, who is never too busy for you, who takes the small and the overlooked and the weary into his arms and blesses them and calls them his own. Let this be a small prayer as you settle into the quiet. For the one who gathered the children and blessed them, gather me too tonight. Where I have been striving to earn what you long to give, teach me simply to receive. Where I have felt too small to matter, remind me that the kingdom belongs to such as these. Make me tonight, like a child again, trusting, unafraid, and held. And let me sleep in the safety of your arms. Amen. And now may peace be upon you, real and deep, or the peace of a child who knows it is loved and has nothing left to prove. May the burdens of the day grow light. May you remember, as you fall asleep, that you do not have to hold the world together, that you are loved, not for what you do, but for who you are, and that there is a place for you, near to the heart of the one who welcomes the little ones. Rest now, friend. You are safe, you are wanted, you are held. Sleep gently, like a child in loving arms, and we will walk on together, toward the morning, when you are ready. Before you let the day go, hold one last picture in your mind, the picture this whole gentle story has been building toward. A field at the edge of a town, gold with late light. A workingman setting down his tools, and a child gathered up into strong, kind arms, held close, blessed, told without a single doubt that it is precious and welcome and home. That is not only a scene from long ago, it is a picture of how you are held tonight, whether you can feel it or not. The arms that gathered, those children have not grown tired or distant. They are open still, and they are open to you, not because you have earned them, but simply because you are loved. You can climb into that welcome tonight, the way a sleepy child climbs into a parent's arms at the end of a long day. Nothing to prove and nothing to fear, and simply rest. And if your mind is busy, if the cares of the day keep circling back, let the gentleness of the children's trust be the thing you return to. They did not lie awake, working out whether they were good enough. They did not carry the weight of the world. They simply trusted that they were cared for, rested in it, and slept. You are invited into that same rest. Tonight, the world will go on turning without your holding it. Morning will come, whether or not you have solved everything. You are allowed right now to set it all down and to be small and trusting and held. That is not weakness. It is the truest wisdom there is, the wisdom the carpenter praised above all the learning of the wise, all the simple trust of a child who knows it is loved.